Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year to you. The time is 6:01 p.m. We now call this regular public meeting of the Board of Trustees of Humble ISD School District to order. Moving to our first item of business, a public hearing. A public hearing on the district annual report for the 2024-2025 school year. Dr. Sharita Wilson-Rogers will present the district annual report for the 2024-2025 school year.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Dr. Brown, I stand before you to do our district annual report, followed by public hearing. To put in context, I want to provide to you our enrollment from October snapshot of October 2015, where we had 40,548 students, to last year with our October 2025, our snapshot was at 47,855 students. You can see we have over an increase of 7,000 students in the 10 years. This slide shows our different district enrollment by student groups comparing fall 2015 to fall 2025. Every student group presented has increased in 10 years span, and we've increased by almost 17% in the eco-dis percentage in that 10-year span. The district annual report consists of eight sections listed here on the slide, and we will start with our Texas Academic Performance Report. That's a PDF file that's been provided to the board. So our Texas Academic Performance Report is compiled by TEA and is published in a PDF format for the district and campuses and can be viewed online on the TEA website as well as our district website. This graph shows 5 of our student groups in Humble ISD. As you can see, our SPED student group continues to show an increase over the past 4 years. The Academic Performance Report starts by having our STAR performance reported for the 25 and 2024 accountability years. It includes 3 performance rates of approaches, meets, and masters, and it's broken down by assessments, including SAT and ACT grade levels, starting with 3rd grade, specifically highlighting our meets grade level and above, reading and mathematics, and EOCs. At the approaches performance level on STAR, Humble ISD is performing at or above the state in 4 of our content areas. At the approaches grade level, Humble ISD is performing at or above the state in 3 out of the 4 content areas. This data, of course, I've presented to you previously, but this time we're now presenting it with comparison to the state and to the region. At the master's performance level, Humble ISD is performing at or above the state in science and social studies. The performance report also includes our school progress that includes annual growth and accelerated learning points that is part of our domain 2 of the accountability system. The state shares data and taper on student participation in the STAR and EOC assessments. As noted on this slide, Humble ISD is at 95% with STAR EOC participation. Next, graduation and dropout rate is the lagging data for the school year in taper, being that what's being reported is the 2023-24 and the 2022-2023 school years. This slide shows Humble ISD annual dropout rate for the past 4 years, with Humble ISD being lower than the state and the region annually. The data represented here is Humble ISD 4-year graduation rate for the district, as well as some of our student groups. And you can see it's for the class of 2023 and the class of 2024, because again, graduation rate is lagging data. Next in the report is the graduation profile that represents the 2023-2024 graduates, providing total graduates, ethnicity, graduation type, and programs. College, career, and military readiness is the next portion of the report. We've talked extensively about CCMR this year, but in the report, it provides the graduates broken down by the CCMR indicators And it also talks about post-secondary readiness indicators of dual credit students, graduates enrolling in the Texas Institution of Higher Education, and those completing 1 year without enrollment in developmental courses. As it relates to college readiness indicators, Humble ISD is performing above the state average in most of the indicators except for an ACT performance. Next part of the report breaks down student information, staff information, and program information for the district. Our CFO continues to share with the board and stakeholders financial report, with the most recent reports from TEA being from the 2023-2024 school year, and that is available from our financial office. Humble ISD continues to hold our accredited status as a district, which is section 3 of the report. Section 4 of the report is campus performance objectives. Ms. Eubank shared campus improvement plans in a previous board meeting, and the board voted for them to be approved. Section 5 of the report is report on violent and criminal incidents. The report on violent and criminal incidents is available for review at the administration building and on the district website. The report will be for the 24-25 school year. Section 6 is student performance in post-secondary institution. Literally just yesterday, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board released the latest data. As you see, I had on here, it says mid-January. So what you have in your actual packet for the presentation was based on the 2025 report from the Higher Education Coordinating Board. We will update this and provide further information if there's major changes based on what's posted as of yesterday. Section 7 is House Bill 3 and campus progress towards it. Our House Bill 3 progress report will be provided to the board this summer. And finally, as part of the taper is the glossary. Each year, TEA prepares and publishes the glossary. The glossary is now in English and in Spanish, and it provides definition, descriptions, and methodology for the data point that's in the report. As always, if there's any questions, please reach out to me. And the taper will be posted on the district website and within 2 weeks, and paper copies will be provided at the central office as well as campuses. Any questions?
Any questions from anybody on the board?
No, I'm good. So go ahead.
I just had a comment. I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate everything that you do and the team does each and every day. And I really appreciate you, Dr. Wilson Rogers.
Thank you, Ms. Parker.
Mrs. Scarfo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson Rogers, going back to the slide on the graduation rates, and I know there's a lag, but still. That one. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. What are we, and this isn't just to you, but Dr. Brown and staff, but what are we doing or putting in place to try to improve the graduation rate for certain groups that are lagging behind the average for the district? And I know it's a combination of things, but anything specific to get those kids over the finish line where we're not doing as well as we are in other overall groups? Does that question make sense, what I'm trying to say?
Well, I think Dr. Hicks had it to the.
Good. No, thank you.
One of the things that the board approved before Dr. Hicks starts, I think that our focus on personalized counseling really helps because it allows those counselors to meet individually with students. And that's one of the things they talk about is their graduation plan. And so I think that's been a great benefit. And I think we'll see some great gains out of that as well, or we'll see some gains out of that as well. And so then Dr. Hicks, I don't know if you want to add.
Right. I appreciate the question. It can have a kind of a multi-pronged answer. A lot of times when we start getting into that remaining percentage that we're trying to help graduate, we're dealing with or trying to support students through life circumstances. And in high school, a lot of times that is trying to recover credits, could be truancy issues. So we're talking about attendance. It could be, as Dr. Brown said, support mechanisms from counseling staff. So it's a whole host of different reasons that kind of come together that are contributing to whatever struggles might exist. So we have built that into our school improvement meetings. Those school improvement meetings are taking place at the beginning of the year, what I would call kind of the middle of the year, and then before we get ready for our EOC assessments, but still with enough time so that we can make an impact on EOC. Well, our school improvement meetings don't just focus on EOC, because we know at the high school level that we also, in addition to STAR, we have CCMR, and then we have graduation rates. So that is what Domain 1 is built on in the accountability system. So as part of that, we have an intentional piece that is built in that focuses exclusively on graduation rate. Largely, the parts or the areas that we're trying to support and address come from school attendance, and they come from needing to make up credits. And so we try to address students' needs by making phone calls to parents and trying to get kids to come back to school, so that, and we tell them when we're having those conversations that there are outlets that we may be able to assist those students with in terms of credit recovery. Because if they have been out of school, then a lot of times they almost feel like there's a sense of hopelessness. So we're trying to help the kids by bringing them back so that we can get them set up with that academic programming by way of credit recovery, so that we can help them get the credits that are needed for graduation. But we're not stopping just with the 4-year graduation rate. We also look at the 5- and 6-year graduation rate. So in some cases, those phone calls are going to kids that may have been out of school for over a year or more, because we're trying to give them the opportunity to come back and earn the high school degree. Now, I will also say that we've made steps in this direction, and I feel like that we have some good things in place, but we have more that we're continuing to build out on this approach to trying to help that small percent that is trying to gain their graduation credits.
I appreciate that, both your comments. We're privy to a lot of all this information, but this is a public hearing. So I just wanted the public to hear what you said, because we hear it, but I wanted them to hear it too, to know that we're really laser focused on all these things, and particularly the end of the game, right? The graduation. So, but thank you, because that really
Absolutely.
gives everybody some really good background as to what you guys are doing day in and day out. So thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else on any other trustees?
I just have a quick question. Have we seen an increase and with testing coming back, right? The state of Texas is bringing back all sorts of testing, SAT, ACT, STAR, and what the new STAR is going to look like. Have we seen an increase in those scores based on allowing kids to, we have options now for kids to test in the fall and the spring for free, right? So have we seen increase in metrics on that as well at the high school level? If we've only been doing it for 2 years fully, right?
Yes.
So
You want to talk, Dr.
We,
Lee?
we do offer, at years past, we'd offered the ACT school day to all students for free. Also, but we just recently switched back to doing the SAT full school day, but we do offer opportunities for students who want to take the ACT to also take that as well too. So we offer all of those opportunities for students to be able to come in and take those exams. So I don't have the numbers right here. I don't think myself or Dr. Lee has the numbers right off the top of our head to say year over year those numbers increasing. But right now, currently, every year, all of our 11th graders, because we have school day SAT that'll take place for all 11th graders, will end up taking the SAT, and all of our 9th and 10th graders take the PSAT as well.
that's good information for the public to hear, because that's, I mean, it's still very new, I think, in our district that we're doing that, where we're buying, and people are buying into it, right? So people are showing up and doing it. So that's good.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on the topic? Mr. Ford.
Scott Ford wasn't planning on talking about this, but as long as we have public comments, talking to the counselors over at the high schools, they really do not like the current thing that they have to do with the meetings, before and after. They feel for kids who are on the right path, it's a waste of time and keeps them from addressing students with real needs. I would assume if you talk to the counselors, they'll repeat the same thing to you, but this wasn't brought up. Additionally, one of the things I discovered to help kids graduate is that they're lacking seat time. They can get teachers to sign off on that seat time, even if the kid wasn't even there that day. So this might also be something you want to look into.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Anybody else? Okay, seeing that there are none, I close this public hearing. A closed session of the board will now be held on the matters contained in the notice for this meeting. Should the board determine that any final action, final decision, or final vote will be required with regard to any material considered in such closed session, then such final action, final decision, or final vote will be made upon reconvening of this public meeting in open session. The time is 6:17. We'll now go to closed session. Time is now 7:02. We will now reconvene into open session. Thank you for joining us tonight. Reminder that meetings of the board are open to the public, but are not a meeting of the public. The Humble ISD Board of Trustees meet monthly in a regular meeting to receive reports from staff and take action from recommendations of the superintendent. The board receives the agenda and all supporting documentation several days in advance of the regular meetings, which allows us to ask and receive answers to many of our questions in advance of the regular meeting. Therefore, lengthy discussions are not always necessary on every agenda item, but as a board, we do have the appropriate knowledge and preparation for responses regarding the content of the meeting tonight. There are students and other guests present. To maintain decorum, respectful behaviors expected. Disrespectful behavior or disruptive behavior and/or comments will not be allowed. And with that, our first agenda item. I would ask everyone to please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the Texas flag. The Humble High School Army Junior ROTC will present the colors this evening. Now observe a moment of silence. Please be seated. This is going to be a little bit of a unique reading as we've changed a little bit of the format of our meeting, and this is to explain. Starting tonight, the Humble ISD School Board is trying something new for the spring semester. Instead of our usual monthly meetings, including commendations and recommendations, those moments will now happen at a dedicated special meetings just for celebrating our students, staff, and district achievements. These special meetings will be held in our boardroom here, but at 6 p.m. on the following dates: Tuesday, January 20th, Tuesday, March 24th, and Tuesday, May 26th. You might be wondering why the change. We believe special meetings will give our students and staff the chance to shine even more. These meetings will focus solely on celebrating achievements. There won't be other agenda items. Also, since these meetings will start at 6 p.m., not 7 p.m., students and staff can head home earlier on school nights. Additionally, by having commendations and recognitions outside of the regular monthly meetings, the bulk of our time at regular board meetings can now be devoted to robust discussions of topics directly related to measuring and improving student outcomes and the performance goals that the board has set for the district. At the end of the semester, we'll review how these special meetings are going and decide whether to keep them next school year. Now we will move into the public comment portion of the regular meeting. Questions and comments by patrons or employees of the district regarding agenda items or any other items. The next item is public comment. The board encourages comments from citizens of the district or from district employees. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative of a group, may do so following the procedure outlined on the agenda. The board asks that the comments pertain to public education issues and be no longer than 2 minutes. Remember that the board may not discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on our agenda for tonight's meeting. If an issue mentioned is listed on tonight's agenda, the board will defer discussion until the appropriate time during the meeting. So if I could please call the first speakers, Mr. Eric Goodwine Sr., Ms. Deanie Allen, and Ms. Tracy Shannon.
Good evening. My name is Eric Goodwine, and I'm here to talk about the 504 accommodations not being given to my son in totality. Also, I wanted to mention that I would like to request all his graded work that I haven't been able to receive under the 504 accommodations. I've sent in bully reports. My son has been overwhelmingly bullied in the Humboldt Independent School District at several schools. He's now at Eagle Springs Elementary. He was at Lakeshore. He was bullied at both schools. I completed bully reports. The bully reports were swept under the rug. My son was recently assaulted at Eagle Springs Elementary School. I filed a police report with Humboldt Independent School District Police Department. Also, when I requested a copy of the report, I was unable to ascertain that report. And then secondly, I reported it to the school, the administration. Everything was swept under the rug, if you will. You can hear me good?
Yeah, you're perfect.
Am I too close?
It's a little bit too close.
Maybe it's because I just got a strong, powerful voice.
Very good.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, can his time be restored?
But yeah, so I requested all my son's schoolwork recently. I haven't been able to receive that as well. Again, the bullying, things were swept under the rug. I was asked to complete bully reports. I did bully reports last school season. I did bully reports when he was at Lakeshore Elementary. No action was taken. I requested teachers' conferences, very difficult to do. And so this is my second step. And I just basically want some help to address the 504 accommodations that my son is due to be able to redo some of his work that he hasn't been able to do. I follow all his grades very closely. And according to the 504 accommodation, he should be entitled to some redos. And I see that he's not getting them. And I just want to make sure that my son is getting what he's due as a student and that he's not going to school and being stressed out like he's an adult. And I teach my son 3 things: go to school to learn, make friends, and have fun. And it's been very hard for him to do that. He's been diagnosed with ADHD, and it's been a very tough challenge with him in the system. Also, my son has been bullied, and it's been on video. When my son was bullied by another kid, he took action and he began to start defending himself because he was getting very frustrated. And so when he began to,
Sir, I'm gonna have to stop you. Our timer got messed up when we tried to add
No
the time,
problem.
but I believe your 2 minutes has
No problem.
passed even with the
Thank you.
additional time for the interruption. I apologize, sir.
Mrs. Deanie Allen.
Our Sunday school lesson today is from the book of Kinder, the Bluebonnet Collection, Unit 11, Lesson 4, the Creation, Genesis. Now, children, let's review what happened. What happened first? Yes, God created light. What happened next? Oh, yes, God created the seas and dirt. Yes, the ground and plants. And then, yes, God created the fishes. And next, oh, yes, all the bugs and the animals. And last, what did God create last? The first man and woman and the Garden of Eden. You know, tonight I had a hard time deciding what to talk about. We have the Bluebonnet Bible-infused reading program that might be our reading program for the next 10 years if the board votes on it. I could have talked about the Messiah, which is in the program, the Last Supper, the crucifixion, the resurrection of Jesus, and so many more Bible lessons that I could have spoken on. The message from this Bluebonnet program is Christianity is the only important religion. Mr. Grabowski, you have accused teachers and librarians of indoctrinating students. If you vote for this Bluebonnet reading program, you will be indoctrinating students. Mr. Scarfo, yes, you have sat right there in that chair and said, every school board member represents all the students. If you vote for this program, about half of our students are not Christian. You will not be representing all the students. Mr. Holmes, you have said it's about the kids. You've told me personally you want to do something about reading. If you vote for this Bluebonnet Bible-infused program, it's not going to be about the kids. It's going to be about Bible lessons. The voters are watching. Public school is not Sunday school.
Ms. Tracy Shannon.
I want to speak about transparency and accountability, not as abstract principles, but as essential safeguards for children. While I'm pleased that the district has decided not to go forward at this time with exempting itself from Texas Education Code 26A, I want to be clear that the district should not bring it back. The district has a history of trying to use the District of Innovation to exempt itself from reforms that improve student learning and safety. Transparency is not achieved by internal record keeping. Transparency exists when parents understand how concerns are handled, how decisions are made, and can see policies are applied consistently, especially when those concerns involve student safety. Accountability is not about blame. It is about ensuring the district decision makers are identifiable, rationales are documented, and outcomes can be reviewed. Without that, a grievance process becomes a shield for the institution rather than a protection for students. Transparency increased trust. When trust erodes, families stop reporting problems early, problems that could have been addressed before a child is harmed. I also need to acknowledge the broader context. This community's trust in the district's leadership and this board has been significantly damaged, particularly after the reinstatement of a board member who was clearly rejected by voters. Attempting to opt out of reforms that improve transparency and accountability further erodes public trust. The public deserves to know who is responsible for this item being on the DOI plan, and we want assurance that it is not coming back. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Lewis, Jennifer Mittman, and Ms. Michelle Reynolds. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, board members. I'm here to speak on behalf of my family and several other Philly families. Thank you for hearing my concerns tonight. Since the beginning of November 2025, the Phillies have been without our director, Miss Andy Lewis. While we appreciate the efforts of Miss Jane Son and the other Humble ISD dance coaches, this situation has placed an unreasonable burden on them. Ms. Jane Zahn is navigating her first year as a dance coach, and the additional coaches are dividing their time between their own teams and ours. It's simply not sustainable or a long-term solution. The Phillies need Mrs. Lewis returned to her position. It is deeply troubling that the grievances of a select few have been allowed to derail the experience of the many. These four-year parents who are nearly out the door are leaving a wake of chaos that impacts every girl on that floor, from the freshmen who are just beginning to learn what it means to be a Philly, to the seniors who are watching their final hard-earned year crumble. Why is the district allowing the conflict of a few individuals to dictate the future of an entire program? By entertaining these grievances, the district has effectively handed the keys of the program to the loudest voices in the room. The lack of communication from the administration has been deafening. Since her absence, the team has struggled, morale has declined, and our dancers are experiencing disappointment instead of the success they have worked hard to achieve. We are used to excellence. Ms. Lewis is the architect of that excellence. She knows how to coach, how to lead, and how to win. She treats these girls as the high-level athletes that they are, holding them to a standard that prepares them for the real world. She is fair, consistent, and the leader these girls signed up to follow. This has dragged on long enough. It's not just about dance. It's about the district's responsibility to protect its students from a few disgruntled adults. If those parents are unhappy, they can leave. They have the right to leave. They do not have the right to ruin the future of this program. We are asking you to support the majority of families and return Ms. Lewis to her position. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Mr. Daniel Lewis. Not present. Ms. Jennifer Mittman. Also not present. The next three speakers, Ms. Larissa Powell, Mr. Eric Willing, and Mrs. Pat Fernbach.
Good evening. My name is Larissa Powell, and what a Kingwood thing to say. As a mom of Kingwood, I want to be very clear tonight. Parents are already being denied due process in the district. Grievances are being dismissed, delayed, or never even heard long before proposed exemptions under TEC 26A even take effect. That is exactly why these agenda matters are important. Legal policy BQA and BQB have not been updated since July 17, 2020. These policies, along with others that govern planning and decision-making, grievances, and other fundamental operations of this district, are now nearly 5 years old or older. Shouldn't all board policies be reviewed and updated every couple of years? If not, why aren't they be? And more importantly, who is advocating for the grievance exemption and why? Because certainly it's not the community. I mean, TASB even recommended not to exempt from the Chapter 26A. The grievance process in Humble ISD is fatally flawed and has drawn justifiable scrutiny. The vast majority of grievances in the same way. District exoneration delivered by hand-picked expensive attorneys who predictably reach outcome favorable to the district. And even on the rare occurrence when a complaint prevails, the district and the board fail to provide meaningful remedies. A clear example, Mr. Thomas Newman. He prevailed in his grievance. He was exonerated, and yet the board ignored him. To be candid, the community is tired. We're exhausted. We're tired of being ignored. We're tired of being silenced. We're tired of being called liars and tired of decisions that defy logic.
Mr. Eric Willing.
Good evening. I want to speak about patterns, not isolated decisions, but recurring behaviors in this board's governance that mirror troubling historical trends. When political movements reshape public education, we often see 5 patterns: centralized control, politicized leadership, curriculum restrictions, harm to vulnerable students, and the erosion of the community voice. These patterns appeared in 1930s Germany and other places where education was used as a political tool. I'm not making moral comparisons. I'm pointing out structural risks. In Humble ISD, we're seeing decisions pushed through with limited discussion, leadership changes tied to ideology, book removals and vague curriculum rules, disproportionate harm to special ed, ESL, LGBTQ+, and students of color, community voices dismissed as or labeled as political. And now we must add a sixth: failure to clearly protect students and families from ICE presence on district property. Schools are considered sensitive locations under federal guidance. ICE is strongly discouraged from entering campuses, bus stops, or school events, yet Humble ISD has not publicly reaffirmed this protection. There is no visible policy, no staff training, no multilingual outreach to immigrant families. The silence creates fear, and fear keeps children out of the classrooms. I urge this board to take a public stance, declare schools as protected spaces, refuse cooperation with ICE unless legally compelled, train staff to respond safely and legally, and inform families of their rights in both English and Spanish. It's the right thing to do. This isn't about politics. It's about protecting children. Our kids deserve better, and our community is watching. Thank you.
Ms. Fernbacher.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Fernbacher, and I'm a retired teacher. I spent over 2 decades in Texas classrooms. I believe in public education and local control, and in school boards acting as stewards of community trust. Tonight, I'm speaking because that trust is broken. I taught students that transparency matters, that rules exist to protect people, not institutions. Yet what we are seeing from this board and this administration sends the opposite message. The grievance process that was originally placed on this agenda and then quietly removed after community outcry was not a minor procedural change. It was a fundamental shift in how parents, students, and employees are allowed to raise concerns. Moving it to a workshop does not restore trust. It reinforces the perception that decisions are being made behind closed doors away from public scrutiny. As a retired educator, I could tell you this plainly. When you make it harder to file grievances, you do not create efficiency, you create fear. You silence voices and you protect systems, not students. The community's distrust did not come out of nowhere. It came from actions such as rejecting the will of voters by reinstating a board member who came in dead last, approving contracts without meaningful discussion, and continuing to rely on attorneys and leadership that the public has repeatedly questioned. And at a time when this district desperately needs credibility and competence. Teachers faithfully work every single day with their students, parents, and colleagues. They trust that by being fair, consistent, and honest, their students will be successful. I ask you to remember who you serve. And right now, this community is asking for you to be accountable. Thank you.
Ms. Keisha Welsh and Mr. Russell Bynum, the final 2 speakers.
Good evening. My name is Russ Bynum, and I have a daughter who is a KHS Philly. This is her 3rd year to participate in that dance program. I'm here to respectfully urge you to bring back Mrs. Lewis to be the dance team director. A strong dance program is not just about performance and about wins and competition. It's about discipline, building confidence, and preparing these students well beyond school. Under the direction of Mrs. Lewis, she has created a structured environment where students learn responsibility, accountability, time management. Rehearsals and practices demand punctuality. Performances and competition require focus. Expectations are clear. And time again, our students rise to meet them. Equally important is confidence. Dance provides students with a platform to grow. With consistent guidance from Mrs. Lewis, our team has gained self-esteem. They've learned to perform under pressure. and develop the courage to lead. These are the skills that follow them inside the classroom every day. As some of them head off to college, they will follow them there and well beyond into their careers as they exit and join the real world. Finally, preparation. Mrs. Lewis prepares these students not only for competitions and school events, but also for these real world challenges. She teaches them teamwork, resilience, and perseverance. Students learn excellence from practices. They learn excellence from feedback and commitment. Lessons that align directly with the values that we want our schools to instill and we want our educators to instill in them. I urge you to bring her back. She is needed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One last time, Ms. Keisha Welsh is not here either. Okay. Okay, next is comments by individual board members. And we'll start with Mrs. Shaw.
It's okay. I'm always first, I guess. But we, first of all, I want to thank everyone that came and gave their public comment. I know it's a pretty hard thing to do, and it takes a lot of bravery and courage to share what you want to share and what you need to share and what's been laid on your heart. I'm going to refrain from the DOI comments that have been made because I think Dr. Brown's going to address that. So we're going to let him address that. I also want to just say Happy New Year. Welcome back. I think we all just hit the ground running. We had, and I'm also just going to talk briefly about Coach Kevin McElroy. Coach Mac was a dear friend of our families. He coached my son for more than 6 years. That tennis program has lost close to 3 coaches in 6 years. So please just keep that program in your prayers. But I just want to say that Coach Mac was one of a kind. He taught young men and women how to be better, had a tremendous amount of integrity, and will be missed in Humble ISD. He coached here for 16 years. He was Coach of the Year last year, and he's probably one of the best coaches that your child could possibly ever have. I get tickled. I mean, touched just talking about it, but my son, in his senior speech, said that Coach Mac taught him how to be a man. And he is so glad that he had the opportunity to have Coach Mac as his coach. It was mentioned again in church on Sunday of other students that had said that. And to hear that, from young people, young men, it's a pretty profound thing. So I'm just thankful that he was on our campus for the years that he was. So that's it.
Mr. Holmes. Good evening. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Mr. Grabowski. Good evening, everybody. I wanted to just say also, wishing you a happy new year, expressing my condolences for a pillar in our community. And again, I don't need to, but want to echo the same sentiments as Mrs. Shaw. I don't have too many things to say other than looking forward to just a new year. Grateful to be able to serve the community and looking forward to meeting the goals that we established last year. So again, looking forward to just a lot more movement. And again, I'm just trying to support our community as best we can. That's all I have, Mr. Grabowski.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Mr. Sparkles.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would also like to welcome everybody back. Hopefully they got a lot of rest and relaxation during the break. So we're raring to go and to finish this thing out. I know we had some breaks coming up, but that's okay. I'm looking forward to when we get to see the mock testing, see how things went first semester. I'm excited about that because I really think we'll see some good indications there in terms of which way we're going. And The only thing I'll say about some of the comments that were made, because I'm going to give you my comment, people should look at our current policy, FNG, that, covers this particular area. Because I'll tell you, with a couple of exceptions, it mirrors what statutes are requiring. And I think, the changes we'll have to look at are that the filing days go from 15 to 60 and possibly 90 in some cases, and also allowing additional documents and claims to be brought in as it progresses. Right now, that although the policy doesn't expressly prohibit that, it's not been the protocol that's followed. So that's a change, and I'd support that too. I think that'd be a good idea. But I don't think we're really far off the mark on our current policy. And as Dr. Brown will address how that came to be, and I just want to assure people that it wasn't like pushback from the community. It was board members who had questions. Okay, so we're looking at things. We don't just take things blind. We're not rubber stamping anything. So people should rest assured about that. And that's all I'll say.
Mr. Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. A couple things. Again, Happy New Year. Welcome back to everybody. I know that several people have said this. We're really looking forward to the spring semester, what it's going to bring. Want to make sure I welcome Dr. Shana Perry to the team. Excited to work with you, and Emily Conklin as well to the foundation and the district. I also want to, as a couple of my fellow trustees said, thank the public speakers that came out and spoke, specifically about the grievance process. We hear you, and glad that we're pushing it back to make sure we have more conversation about it. But that's really all I have. I have a couple other comments in the board associations later.
Mrs. Parker.
Definitely want to express my condolences to the family of Coach Mack. Also, Jane Turner. I know many of us have been to Turner Stadium many times, and Jane Turner, Mr. Turner was the superintendent, and Jane Turner, his wife, passed away. And I know, Mr. Scarfo, did you attend the funeral?
It was a great celebration. It really was. I mean, if you didn't know her, well, you missed out, because I got to know her at HARDA over the years, and one of the twins. It was a friend of mine, one of her daughters, and it was just it was a happy time. She lived a good long life and impactful in the community, and she'll be sorely missed. So yeah, thank you.
She was the founder of HARDA, I believe. Yeah, just an amazing, amazing lady, and Coach Mack. So it was a tough week for us here. I wanted to welcome Emily Conklin and Dr. Perry. We're so excited to have you aboard the team. Thank you so much. And I guess I'll keep my comments brief because we're going to be celebrating next week.
When you go last, everything you're going to say gets said pretty much. But thank you, Mrs. Shaw, what you said about Coach Mack. And my beautiful bride and my daughter also played for him. And when I got the email that explained what had happened, we wanted to tell our daughter so she didn't learn it on social media. And I think she put it perfect. And I just looked at her and I said, there's no easy way to tell you this. There's no right words. It's a very difficult thing you're about to hear from Dad. And just want you to know that Coach Mack passed away. I don't know how to break that to you easy. And she just stared at me for a good 10 seconds. And her words were perfect. Everybody loves Coach Mack. That's the kind of impact he had on our community. He will be missed. So I was working with Coach Mack trying to expand tennis to middle schools. I've talked to our new athletic director, Mr. Odom in the back there, and we're going to work out ways. Coach Leak and I are going to fulfill that promise to Coach Mack so these kids can play tennis at an earlier age than high school. I'm going to make that happen. It's one of my missions. The second thing I want to talk about tonight, real quick, there's this program called Salute to Service. If you want to receive this email, whether it's a way to raise money by putting flags along the school property, Kingwood High School has initiated this. Mrs. Shelby Lewis, who is the PTA president, And Mrs. LeBlanc, who is the high school principal at Kingwood High, Mrs. LeBlanc brought this idea over from a high school in Beaumont, Texas, where you pay for a flag, you dedicate it to somebody. My wife and I bought one for my wife's grandfather, who was a POW in World War II for a year underneath German control. And so we honor him on X amount of days a year. If you're interested, whether you're a booster club, a PTA, if you're looking for a way to raise money, junior ROTC, always looking for ways to raise money, you can just email Mrs. LeBlanc and she will send you this email in return that has all of the links, all the information. The work is already done. A way to raise money and be patriotic at the same time is a great combination. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Mr. Grabowski, can I say one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want the public to know, the speakers to know that I have been marching in the Holocaust Remembrance March here in Kingwood since it was founded. I'm a former board member of the Holocaust Remembrance Association. I'm on the advisory board of the Holocaust Remembrance Association. And I think it's of critical importance that our students be aware of the Holocaust and the atrocities of Nazi Germany so that we never repeat those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker. Our next item is comments by our administration. Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. So I'd written myself a note to introduce Dr. Perry and Emily Conklin, but I think that's been done. So we do welcome you here, Emily Conklin with Community Engagement and Dr. Perry as our new Associate Superintendent. And so we do welcome you and glad you're here and joined the team. So we appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, who started that? Yeah. All right, so I'd like to address the District of Innovation Plan because I know it was pulled from this evening and kind of how that came about. So, you know, the Texas legislature back in 2015 allowed districts become District of Innovation to allow you to have local control, a little more local control regarding the statutes that they may pass in Austin and TEA is required to implement. So it gave districts more control. So we've been part of the District of Innovation Plan since I think around 2016. So for example, when you see the calendar that is going to be voted on tonight, just like many other school districts, you're actually not supposed to start school until the fourth Monday or later in August. But you can District of Innovation out of that if it's best for your community and start earlier. And we do that, and we've been doing that for some time now. But that's due to the District Innovation Plan. So whenever there's a legislative session and laws are passed, then we'll review our District of Innovation Plan along with the statutes to see is there anything here based upon our community that we would like to look at as far as the District of Innovation Plan. So we did that. We started that process actually in November, and we as a team looked at that. And so we made some of those edits to it and the additions that you saw. And then it was posted for a virtual district decision-making committee, which is made of parents, community leaders, and staff, teachers, to review the District of Innovation Plan. So, hey, here's what we're thinking. Let's get some feedback. So we present that to the District Decision-Making Committee. That happened in December the 11th. Then we send that District Decision-Making Committee a survey. We send them a survey. And Ms. Hayhurst, how many are on that committee? 60, 70 individuals, close to that. I mean, there's quite a few people on there. And so we get that feedback. We take that feedback from the District Decision-Making Committee. And then we brought forward on the board agenda, a public board agenda for discussion and recommendations. And that's the way this process works. And that's what we do. So as a team, we'll bring forth things on the board agenda, but it's public. And it's for us to make recommendations to this board who represents the community. And then you decide, yeah, that's a good recommendation, or that's not a good recommendation, or we want more information. Let's table that. And so once this item was posted on the agenda and the agenda was posted, there was feedback that came from other community members. And the board thought it best, which I don't disagree with. If there's things we need to review further, let's do that because we want to serve the community. And so that's why this item was tabled, and it will not be considered tonight because we do want to hear from the community. If that's what we need to do more, we serve the community and we serve our students. And so that's what we're doing, and that's why we did it. There was nothing other than that went into this, and it was posted on a public agenda to be discussed at a public meeting. Mr. Vice President. May I? I just wanted to, so.
Go ahead, Mr. Scarfo.
Dr. Brown, you also got direct feedback from board members too, correct? Because I know I gave you some. Correct. And one thing that I left off yes, yes, I get feedback from board members. And that's good because we're a team of 8 and that's what I want because we're a team. We want that feedback. But this was also posted, I believe, on our website for 30 days, the District of Innovation Plan. So it's not something that just came about quickly. It's been a process. But we appreciate that. And we appreciate the feedback from the community. That's what we want to hear. We can slow this down a little bit if we need to, and let's have a conversation. So thank you.
Do you have any other comments you'd like? Or no?
Did we introduce Dr. Perry and Emily Conklin?
I don't think so.
I'm not sure.
Mr. Silva, for action item 5A, do we have a motion, please?
Yes, Mr. Vice President. I move to approve the administration's personnel recommendations as presented in closed session with addendum.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, the motion passes 6-0. He wasn't enclosed. Yeah, motion passes 6-0.
Go ahead and ask if there's any one opposed and any abstentions.
There's 6 people and we all voted in favor.
But you have 7 people present in the meeting, so he would need to abstain.
Okay.
Mr. Holmes needs to abstain.
Okay, all in favor? Let me start this again. All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you, Counselor.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. Moving on to item 6, our consent agenda. Item 6M was stricken from the agenda. Does any trustee have an item they wish to pull from item 6 Alpha to 6 Oscar, not counting, or 6 Mike, 6M? Okay, seeing that there are no pulled items, Mr. Silva, do we have a motion, please?
Yes, sir. I move to approve consent agenda items 6A through 6O, excluding item 6M, which was stricken from the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Scarfo seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 7-0. Moving back to action item 7A, approval of new materials for library acquisitions. Mr. Silva, would you please read the motion?
Yes, sir. I move per the SLAC's recommendation to approve adding the list of new library materials for library acquisitions as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Parker. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Grabowski. Yep.
Go ahead, Mr. Holmes.
I believe Mr. Scarfo. Go ahead, please. I'll give up my place. You had your hand first.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to ask, it said that the acquisitions were allowed for 30-day public viewing. And I just wondered, where did that take place at the ISC? Like when you do the curriculum and stuff, I just wondered where it was because it didn't say, and I couldn't find anywhere. Yeah, you can just holler out. I'm just curious.
Is your
30
mic
days.
Okay.
Mic on?
Is the mic on?
I think so.
Oh, there you go. I hear you now.
It was posted on the Humble ISD Library District page for 30 days. We had
So
zero.
it's just that spreadsheet. It's not like people can actually go see books.
Correct. It's just the
Okay. That's
spreadsheet,
fine.
and we
That's-
also had the
that's
feedback
all I
form.
wanted to know.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We can't technically purchase those books without the SLAC's recommendation and the board's approval.
Any other comments?
Yes, Dr. Lee, one more question from me.
Sir Holmes.
Regarding Manu, right, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Was that book on the approved list by TEA?
So I believe that's the next agenda item, sir. This agenda item was the new acquisitions. That's B. That's the next agenda item after.
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Mr. Silva.
Yeah, just for the sake of clarity and transparency, the motion that I read said per SLAC recommendation as amended. I don't believe that the public can see the as amended on the agenda. So I just wanted to clarify what happened there. We got notification that the SLAC met. They looked at the library materials. They didn't remove anything from the list, but there was a small section of the list that they said that they wanted some extra time to look at. So that's the amendment that I mentioned in the motion.
Any other comments by board members? Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes 7-0. Item 7B, formal reconsideration of library material Manu by Fernandez. Mr. Silva, would you please read the motion?
Yes, sir. I move per SLAC recommendation to remove the library material Manu by Fernandez at the elementary level and require parent permission for checkout at the middle and high school levels.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Parker. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Grabowski.
Please.
Yeah, I was just wondering, and Dr. Lee, apologize for jumping ahead. Wanted to make sure I had clarity. So are we saying that Manu before the SLAC met was approved for elementary, middle school, and high school?
Prior to the adoption of Senate Bill 13 into Texas Education Code, we didn't have a formal process for this. So it was in our elementary and middle school libraries. Yes, sir. We don't have it in any high schools currently, but it was in elementary and middle school libraries. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lee. I think for me, if TEA approved this for elementary and middle school, I don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, and again, Dr. Lee or anybody on the team, just share with me, I want to make sure I have this right. We're looking at banning it from elementary and only for middle school and high school checkout, right? So banning it from elementary altogether, is that correct?
So just a point of clarity here, Mr. Holmes, I want to make sure I'm transparent on this. Unlike instructional materials, there isn't a TEA approved list of books for school libraries. That's a little different than our instructional material process where TEA has an approved list. This would just be a material that librarians had evaluated and chose to add to their collections in the past. So it isn't necessarily TEA approved. We don't have those kind of lists for school libraries. We do have Texas lists that come out like the Blue Bonnet list and some other lists, but no, there isn't a TEA approved list like instructional materials. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
But this was a book challenge. This
Correct.
wasn't to approve. This is something totally separate
Correct.
from
This
the
was a
motion
challenge.
we just
Correct.
approved, that, buying books.
Correct. This was a challenge brought forth by a
And that's what-
parent who had an objection to the
Right.
book. Correct.
And that's what the SLAC was doing.
Correct. Yes, sir.
That's a terrible pronunciation, that acronym. That's just-
Okay.
School Library Advisory Committee. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. No, thank you, Dr. Lee, for all of that clarity. I think I just, I still want to take this back to, I've heard from librarians within our school district. And I do believe that some of them have doctorates and they're degreed and they have the credentials. I believe it's, again, still un-American. And I'm in Texas and we really don't like being told what to do. I believe that it is up to a parent, not us, to legislate what their child can or cannot check out. I believe that is the responsibility. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this district does allow that freedom to do that. So I'm just not in favor of banning it from elementary. If it's already been in the elementary and our librarians are okay with that, I'm okay with continuing to keep it there and allowing our parents to make that decision. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Bowski.
Yeah.
Well, and one last thing. I'm sorry. One last thing, please. I'm sorry, Mr. Scarfo. I did also want to say I appreciate the SLAC committee. I really do, for all of their time, all of their efforts, and I do absolutely respect your decisions. I really do. But again, just want to say thank you to all those members.
Mr. Scarfo.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Palms, I'm just going to push back on this legislature changed things this last session. So they're kind of directing the board to really, that's the right term, but to really watch this, to take control at the end of the day and really be that last decision making. So we have that responsibility. And I'm not a fan of censure either, and censorship and all the rest. But I look at, we created this committee and we're going to be adding 7 more people to it the next time you meet, right? There'll be 21 total.
Correct. That was the board decision.
And I look at, so out of the group that did meet and went through this, and I read the book and a lot of the board members read the book. Wasn't that impressed, but it so. It's just, you look at how many people voted either to require parent permission or to not allow it in elementary school at all. I think it was a total of 11 out of, you had 13 people who actually were there that showed up to vote or.
Yes, sir. There were 13 present
So
that day.
I guess right out of the box, I'm just a little hesitant that we created this advisory committee and they put a lot of work into it. And now we're kind of, if we say, no, we're just not going to listen to what you had to say. Why do we have it? And I tell you, if it was something I felt so strongly about that I thought they erred grievously, I would have a different opinion, but I don't think they have. I mean, look, everybody does the best they can do. And that was their group opinion. And I've heard directly from a couple of people that, it should be allowed in elementary school. And frankly, I'm not so sure I have a real issue with it, but if this is what's being recommended to us, my feeling is, at least right out of the gate, we should support the committee we set up. And not that they make recommendations. I get that. We have to make the final.
That's right.
And so, but you take all that into account, reading the book, read reviews. And I think what they're recommending is a decent compromise. Although honestly, I don't see many high school students who would ever check that book out or read it.
We don't have it in any of our.
Yeah, I mean, maybe middle school, but and I don't know, maybe the board wants to talk about letting the 5 people said, require permission at the elementary level. Maybe you could do one of those things where at the elementary level, it's behind the desk, so to speak, where it's not out on the shelf. And a student who wants to take it out would have to get permission from their parent to do it. I mean, I could probably be convinced to go that way too. But like I said, I think their recommendation is such, and it was, a majority of the folks. So I kind of tend to defer to their opinion on this one.
And I agree with the fact that we are given the responsibility now as the board as the final arbiter of the books. That's one big change. And it is I read it and I wouldn't reread it. It's a horribly written book, in my opinion. I know that really shouldn't factor into it, but if we're going to have our children learn good reading, that does factor into it. And I agree that we created the SLAC, all of us. We voted, I believe, 7-0 on that. We should honor the SLAC. And My only issue is the parent permission. Kids are clever. And if child A is allowed to read the book and child B's parent says, no, you can't, child A is going to check that book out and give it to child B. I don't know how to stop that, but they're very good on their phones and they're very good at getting favorite. They're going to, if they want that book, they're going to get that book if it's in the libraries. So if I was a parent, I wouldn't, and I am a parent, I would, if the book's in the library, your child's likely to read it. And if my daughter wants to waste her time, she can read that book. But I tend to believe that I'm going to honor what the SLAC says, is what I'm going to say. And I hope we can come up with a different way of, if we truly want to restrict a book from an individual, I don't think we can do that. I don't think there's a feasible way. Thank you.
Mr. Grabowski.
Mrs. Parker.
Thank you. I just think that we need to be careful with that word ban. I don't think that the SLAC is banning anything. I think what the decision read was it was age inappropriate for elementary. If students in middle school or high school wanted to read it, then they could with parental permission. I think banning is a little bit extreme. We have lots of materials that are age inappropriate for one grade or one school, elementary, middle, high school. And, I just think we need to be really careful using that word.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker. And I feel that way too. It's age and inappropriate is the setting in our school district is what we are left to grapple with. If you want to go on Amazon and buy it for your student, or you want to go to a public library and check it out, it's menu by, I don't know. I wouldn't waste your time, but on that book, but there's ways to get the book. It's just, is it setting and age appropriate in elementary schools? The SLAC said pretty clearly, it is not. And I'm going to support their decision. And I also, like others have stated, I appreciate their work. It's a lot of work to review books, a lot of opinions. It gets emotional and kept very much under control by Dr. Lee. So thank you. And any other comments?
Yeah,
Mrs. Shaw.
we need to watch our language as a board as well. I think on the banning piece of it, we are not banning books. We're not censoring books. We want to read and we want reading to be important. However, as part of what we've been required as the state of Texas to create a school library advisory committee. This was a book challenge. This was not a, I'm coming out to ban a book or I'm coming out to censor a book. And in line with what the school library advisory committee, they're not pulling the books from our campuses. They are restricting the books with parent permission at the middle school and high school level. The books will still remain at the library. So for people to understand, if you want your child to read this book, you can have your child read this book and you can create it, you can check it out with your parent permission slips. I just think that we've got to be careful that we're not we're not the library committee or library advisory committee is not in the business of banning or censoring books. That's not what they signed up for.
Mr. Grabowski, one more. May
Yes,
I?
Holmes.
Yes, so I apologize. Community and board, I did not mean banning, but we are restricting that book from elementary schools based on the recommendation. Although we have created this SLAC, and each of those members have been appointed by each of us, and I think we're adding the third one. I want to make sure that we also still understand that I can want and support this SLAC, but still not agree with the overall recommendation and still support them, right? So two extremes can still exist. Two things can still exist. I have heard from several librarians within our school district, elementary librarians, and they are also experts, and I have to also take into account what they've shared. And I've also heard from several parents in the community that have said that, Marcus, maybe not for kindergarten or first or second, but it maybe for an upper elementary student. Absolutely. So again, I am just not in the business of supporting when we're looking at it in totality, right? Pulling a book that is already there in elementary schools. And again, I get it's a book challenge. I get it. I get it. I'm just wanting to again just restate, I think that should be left up to the parents to make that decision. If there's a compromise, sure. If we want to put it behind the desk and it has to be checked out, that's fine in terms of compromise. But I just again wanted to restate my position.
Mr. Grabowski,
Mrs. Parker.
I'd like to call the question.
Mrs. Parker has put call the question. All those in favor of calling the question? Anybody else? Okay. It's been a long time. Mr. Silva, can you just please reread the motion so
Yes.
we're clear?
So Ms. Parker's called the question, which means discussion's over, and we need to vote on the motion. And the motion is, I move per SLAC recommendation to remove the library material menu by Fernandez at the elementary level and require parent permission for checkout at the middle and high school levels.
Counselor, interrupt me if I'm not corrected, but we have to vote on, we have to get a second on calling the question, and we have to vote on calling the question first before we can do anything else. Because there may not be a majority that actually, you need a 2/3 vote to call the question as well.
This is a big book. You're going to have to give me a second.
I can withdraw it if you would like to say something.
I mean, if Ms. Parker withdraws it and the board's ready to vote anyway, you're welcome to do that.
Did you withdraw? Mrs. Parker withdraws the call to question. Any other comments?
I would like to amend the motion.
Feel free.
Oh, great. Now I've got to create my motion. So the amend the motion is to keep the book in elementary, middle, and high school, restricting it with parent permission.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Silva. Any discussion?
I would just wonder, I don't think we need to include high school because it's not in high school now.
That's right.
And I
So
don't
I
really
can
think that they'd even, anybody, like I said earlier, I doubt.
Good point.
If I can add one point, if it exists at a lower level, it applies to all upper levels. So if
Okay.
you.
So it wouldn't matter?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Counselor, can Ms. Shaw, does she really need to make an amendment? The motion allows it to say remove, keep, restrict with parent permission and other. So can't she put the language into that motion? We don't really have to deal with amended motions.
So the motion that was read was actually an updated motion, and it was,
Oh, it's not what's
correct
in
me
it?
if I'm wrong, Mr. Silva, but it was motion to remove the library material menu by Fernandez at the elementary level. So remove at the elementary level and require parent permission for checkout at the middle and high school levels.
Okay, so what I'm looking at is in the motion.
There was an
I'm looking at our
updated-
agenda.
There was, when the agenda was put out, the SLAC recommendation was not in place yet. So there was an updated motion that was provided by Dr. Lee to the board with the updated motion.
Oh, okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so I would still have to amend the motion, right?
Where-
Yeah.
That was sent out today? I don't recall seeing
No, it
it.
was a day or two ago.
I didn't see it. Okay, that's fine. Then, all right. Sorry.
I think I've already amended it, right? Okay.
Yeah, so the amended motion is she's moving to keep Manu by Fernandez at elementary and middle and high school levels, requiring parent permission.
And we had a second by Mr. Silva. Any discussion? Okay.
I just want to make sure I understand what that means, Mr. Grabowski. Does
That
it-
means we're expanding the book to,
No, but I mean, as far as parent permission, is it not on the shelf, Dr. Lee?
Correct. When we have a book that requires parent permission, it is behind the librarian's
Okay.
desk or in a private office that would require them to go get it. It wouldn't be out on the shelf for a student to get without asking for it.
Okay, any further discussion on the amended motion? Okay. Yes, Mrs. Parker.
Like you said, Mr. Scarfo, I just think that this was the decision of the SLAC, and I would encourage my colleagues to, consider this is the very first book challenge. And if we are going to change their decision, what's the point of a committee?
I would like to say, in response to that, Mrs. Parker, I think we all need to have accountability partners, right? And I think the SLAC, because remember, we're not necessarily mandated to have a SLAC. We as a board voted to have that SLAC as that accountability partner and those community of parents to help us in making those decisions. I don't think it's a green light that whatever they vote on, we automatically green light. I believe it's an accountability system. So that's what my take was on it. So I completely support the SLAC, but we're accountability partners in this.
Mr. Scarfo.
Yeah, I would just say that, yes, that's true. We don't just take what they recommend and just rubber stamp it. That's not the point. But there has been robust discussion, which I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, exactly.
Their opinions, and Ms. Shaw wanted to create a compromise with the amendment to, it's a little different than what the School Library Council has proposed. But that's fine. So I think we're doing both things.
Agree. I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with that.
Need for accountability.
Yeah.
Okay, no further comments on the amended motion? All those in favor?
So let me make sure everybody knows you're voting on the amendment right now.
The
So
amended
you're voting
motion.
to amend it, and then you'll vote on the motion as amended. So you're first voting to accept the amendment.
Mr. Silver, so that we can all be clear, can you read the amendment?
Yes, so the amendment is to change the motion from removing from elementary and requiring parental permission in middle school and high school to requiring parental permission at all three levels, elementary, middle, and high school. So that's what we are voting on, to change it. To amend.
So you're voting now to accept that amendment. And once you've accepted it, then you'll vote
on
the motion as amended. Yeah.
Can you call that an amended motion? What do you call it? Just an amendment?
Yes.
Okay, that's where I got confused in your head. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to be in my head. It's really confusing in there.
Okay, all those who are just, okay, one more time, now that we're done.
Yes,
What we're voting
so
on.
the Ms. Shaw's motion is to amend the motion to change it from removing it from elementary and requiring parental permission at middle and high school to keeping it in elementary and requiring parental permission at all three levels, elementary, middle, and high school.
All those in favor
To
the amendment?
2, 3.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? So the amended motion fails 3-4. Now, can you please read the
So the
original
motion, we're back to where we started. Moving per SLAC recommendation to remove the library material menu by Fernandez at the elementary level and require parent permission for checkout at the middle and high school levels.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstain? Okay, it has to be on. Okay, so the motion passes 5-4, 5 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention. How'd we do?
You did excellent, sir.
Okay, moving on to item 7C. Adoption of district calendar for 26-27 school year. Mr. Silva, would you please read the motion?
I move to adopt and approve the proposed Humble ISD 2026 to 2027 calendar as presented in attachment.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Scarfo.
I just want to say, I read, and I'm sure everybody else got a chance to too. There were 37 pages of comments by the community. And I just want to say thank you. Because I mean, that it was, and there's very thoughtful comments. I really didn't read any snarky ones. There were a little bit here and there, but not really. It was great. A lot of great ideas. I mean, and people have passions about this whole calendar. It's not like everybody thinks it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But people are complaining about late arrival. That was a theme throughout. I don't necessarily support that because I think it's good for professional development. But one thing that was raised, and I didn't get a chance to ask you, Dr. Brown, you don't have to do it now, but about tracking by, we track teachers by minute. We know minutes instead of days, and can you do days instead of minutes? Because I have to show you the comment that got to that. There were a lot of people who weren't that crazy about the February break, and wanting it to start later. And I think a lot of people have said that it's kind of too close. The February and the spring break a little too close together. I'd kind of agree. It doesn't impact me personally. So whatever the majority wants to do. But those are some of the common themes in these comments. I mean, I really appreciated people went to the trouble of doing this because, like I said, a lot of good insights and a lot of good ideas. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. To thank the community for taking part.
Thank you, Mrs. Scarfo. Any other comments? Okay, no other comments. All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 7-0. Okay, item 7 Delta, single audit report for the year ended June 30th, 2025. Mr. Silva, may we please have a motion?
Yes, sir. I move to approve the single audit report by Whitley Penn LLP for the year ended June 30th, 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Scarfo seconds. Any comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Scarfo.
Mr. Vice President, I just want to say, this is accepting the single audit report. Maybe because I'm a finance nerd and accounting nerd, but I mean, this report, it's great. And I don't know if people appreciate that. I mean, it's unmodified, any material weaknesses? No, none to report it. No, it's a great report. And this doesn't happen by magic. And I just wanted to take just a moment to point out all the hard work that goes into this because this is stellar. It really, really is. Thank you.
Mr. Beatty, is it a $750,000 limit if we take that much federal money, we have to get audited by an outside audit firm? That's why we get Whitley Penn.
Yeah, so we do, when we accept federal funds, we are subject to the single audit report. And this was just a little bit different from years past in that this was ready to go with our normal annual audit. But since the federal government was shut down, the Office of Management and Budget hadn't been able to give their guidelines for this year. So the reason why you're seeing this later is because after the government came back open, then they were able to release that guidance so that the auditors could finish and certify this for us.
And how did we get graded as a district by Whitley Penn?
Well, exactly how Mr.
What was their word for it?
Well, it's unmodified opinion and no material weakness.
And how many years in a row have you done that? A lot, right?
It's a dynasty.
Yeah, I just want, so when people come up and they say things that's from an outside auditor validating all of your work and that we're not bankrupt and we're not running out of this and that and the other, that when somebody comes from the outside in and does a forensic audit deep into your numbers, that's the result.
And I'll say a lot of these federal audits, there's also audits going on beyond even these third party by department, like state agencies and things like that as well. So it takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, team effort here to make this because we have
end users spending the money, and we have, departments who are overseeing it, making sure we're in compliance and up to date because rules change and guidelines change. So it is a continual process to be able to have this report.
Thank you, Mr. Petey, and great work, both, your whole department. Any other comments? All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 7-0. Next are our information items. Item 8 alpha, intruder detection audit report.
Yes,
Major
sir.
Perkins.
Sir, the Texas School Safety Center conducted an intruder detection audit in pursuant with legal requirements. We had 5 buildings that were reviewed since our last board meeting with 0 findings.
Any questions or discussions from anybody on the board for Mr. Perkins?
Keep it up.
Yes. Keep it up. Okay, item 8B, board associations and committees. Does any chair have an item they want to share? Go ahead, Mrs. Shaw.
Yep. We have the curriculum committee that just met, just fresh in the new year. And we've got in the ISC, or the dates, they're published online, right? Where people can come in and look at literacy curriculum. You can walk into the building, you have to make an appointment, you have to check in, don't have to make an appointment. It's there and it's available 5 days a week. So I encourage people to go look at the curriculum. They've done a good job in laying out all the different choices for the adoption for literacy. I think a lot of times we say we don't know what's happening, but it's on us to actually go and look at the equipment, what's there. So the other thing that I think I want to give an update on is we've done a deep dive into Bluebonnet Math. We've looked at a variety of different schools, K through 5. We've walked through that, and that's in our committee report as well. And we'll be walking through literacy starting next month.
Any other chairs with a comment? Mr. Sil.
Yeah, I got 2 things. The technology committee first, we're meeting tomorrow at 3:15. It's open to the public. A few people in the community have talked about artificial intelligence and Humble ISD's position on that. And that's going to be one of the topics of discussion. Everybody's welcome. It's on the humbleisd.net/events calendar. The other thing is on the foundation, Education Foundation. A couple things on that. I don't know if y'all heard Emily Conklin's with us now. Well, I know, brand new information. But a couple things on that note is Humble Barbecue Cook-Off and Rodeo is coming up. Longstanding 2-weekend community event. Raises funds for our Education Foundation, ultimately supporting Humble ISD educators and students. So encourage all of us to come out and enjoy the cook-off on January 30th and 31st and support our FFA programs at the livestock auction on Thursday, February 5th. And then, of course, the rodeo is February 6th and February 7th. A lot of sponsors and volunteers come together to make this event possible. And a special shout out to our presenting sponsor of this year's event, Robbins Auto. The foundation's grant application is open through February 16th. So I want to encourage any teachers to apply and let the foundation help turn great ideas into meaningful classroom impact. And last but not least, calling all alumni, the foundation is seeking nominations for the Distinguished Alumni Award. We'd love to celebrate and recognize the accomplishments of our graduates. And the deadline for nominations for that is January 23rd. That's everything I got.
Any other chairs?
Mr. Grabowski.
Mr. Scarfo.
Not speaking as a chair, but I just wanted to so I just wanted to say thank you on the technology committee and you, Ms. Shaw, on that. Looking at the minutes, that I was very heartened just to read about what's going on the cyber front. I think it's really great, and it makes me feel better. It's very a big risk. We know that, but boy, I tell you, I really appreciate your leadership on that, and Mr. Cummings as well, and all the staff that's involved. So, great job. And then as an audit committee person, as Mr. Grabowski and Mr. Kirchhoffer, I just want to say, Mr. Clark, there he is. Thank you for all you talk about hit the ground running. Boy, you really set the bar for that phrase. And I just want to thank you for all you've done in such a short period of time, really righting the ship And it's such a difference from how things were. And I just think it's great. So please keep up the great work. We just want you to know, like, we really appreciate what you've done already. Thank you.
No, of course, Dr. Brown.
So on a piggyback off of Ms. Shaw's comments about the instructional materials, and so when we talk about community involvement, so I heard from a couple of our community members that said, it's really hard for some to make it all the way into Kingwood to the Instructional Service Center. And it would be nice to have that material on the south side some for people to be able to have access to it, for those that might find it challenging. And we're going to do that. And so I just mentioned that to say that, we do listen to our community and we want to work together. That's how you move forward, by working together. And so I appreciate the fact that they came forward and said, hey, have you thought about this? And gave that suggestion. And I thought it was a really good one. And so I got with the team and they're going to make that happen. And so anyway, I just want to let people know that we're also going to be moving it and give other people an opportunity that might find it challenging to get into the Kingwood area, the ISC.
Has that location been determined?
It is already determined.
It's going to be it's going to be at our Early Childhood Center. Is that correct, Mr. Perkins? So right off the Beltway.
Thank you, Dr. Brown.
When is the day? What's the last day that they can look at materials? Can we publicize that as well?
Public showcase is open all the way through the end of February. During the day, the hours are 8 to 3. We also have evening showcases. Tonight was the first one from 4:30 to 6:30. We have another one next week and then 2 in February. Everything comes out on the news and announcement emails through the district. And we also have it posted to the district website. Digital online link to all of the electronic resources are also posted.
And I just want to just keep reiterating, it's crucial. This is an adoption year for literacy. And so we can't say that we haven't looked at the materials. We're making it available as long as we can. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other comments? Yes, Ms. Parker.
The advocacy committee met with Charles Cunningham, our state representative, and Mr. Beatty did an outstanding job updating Mr. Cunningham on all of the things that we have going on. And our next meeting will be with Tom Ramsey, our Precinct 3 Harris County Commissioner.
Okay, I don't see any further comments. So then moving on to item 8, Charlie. Teacher incentive allotment. Mr. Gardner.
Vice President Grabowski, I just want to interject this before we receive Mr. Gardner. I am at a work event and I'm going to have to drop, but I wanted to make my intentions known. I am all for TIA. I'll be looking at the materials, but I do have to get to a customer event myself. But again, that's why I will be dropping. But again, a great meeting. Again, look forward to hearing the discussion and discourse on TIA. So again, thank you all. I'm going to be dropping right now. Just want to make it clear.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Gardner.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Brown, and members of the audience. It's my pleasure to present, along with Tiffany Holquist, a status update of the teacher incentive allotment, or what is also known as TIA for short, and its impact on Humble ISD. Before I begin, let me just say that on the surface of things, this incentive by the state seems like it's easy to administer, a turnkey approach. But what I can tell you in my 30 plus years in HR, this particular compensation incentive program has many complexities to it, as well as challenges in trying to understand the full mechanisms and communicate it as easily in an understandable format as possible. The good news is that we've whittled this down to about 25 slides for this evening. And so we'll cover a few things here tonight. Rusty? So we're going to cover where we were with some background, where we are now, our current status, and where we're headed and the future outlook. So in 2019, the 86th Texas Legislature, as part of then House Bill 3, established the teacher incentive allotment for districts to provide an opportunity for teachers to earn additional compensation above base pay, and trying to get them to an overall six-figure salary. At the same time, help districts attract and retain highly qualified, effective teachers, primarily in hard-to-staff schools, to stabilize the workforce at those campuses for all the consistency that we all know that's needed in the effective education of students. So our journey actually started about in the late 2018-19 school year. It was interrupted, sidelined by COVID during that time. However, our first pilot got off the ground and went live in 2022-23 with 15 of our title campuses. Our last update to the board regarding TIA was the January 2024 breakfast with the board, and our first pilot received full system recognition based on the 15 campuses and was officially approved by TEA in February of 2024. So I just want to mention that this is a very hard and grueling achievement to earn, which we have to maintain this year after year. And we'll get into that in just a moment. I also want to share with this board, as I mentioned in previous boards, that the goals and objectives set out in those early years with this initiative was, and it still is today, to keep it fair, square, and legal, keep it more objective and less subjective so that the teacher can control their own TIA destiny, keep it simple yet specific, and keep it easy to understand, communicate, and administer. So now I'd like to turn over the remainder of this presentation to Tiffany, who's going to walk us through the fundamental aspects, the nuts and bolts, where we are and where we're headed.
Good evening. I'm happy to present TIA to you tonight in a very broad overview of where we are. So let's start with some vocabulary. I was previously a teacher here in Humble ISD. I'm a product of Humble ISD. So I just want to make sure everybody understands what we're talking about as we get into it. So it is an optional local designation system. This means that not all districts do participate. There is a process in which we go through to be part of it, and it's a multi-year process. So we do talk about designations often. One common misconception is designation always means money. And what we want to lay out here for you is designation is the distinction. So this is the actual level that the teachers carry on their SBEC certificate that can earn them additional funding, but it is a mobile, portable distinction that goes with a teacher from campus to campus, even district to district, and it is valid for 5 years. The allotment is the actual amount of money that the state sends the district per designated teacher. And how that works is those dollar amounts are determined by the student socioeconomic status of the population of the campus. So you think about it, a title campus, the socioeconomic status of those students is much different than a non-title campus. So a teacher on a title campus could actually earn funding at a much higher rate than a non-title campus. Designations and funding, this is important in red. These are actually contingent upon an annual system validation process. This means that every single year, TEA looks at our system and says, yes, they are still doing this in a valid and reliable way, and we will move them forward in the process. From there, the teachers can earn their payout, which is in a lump sum stipend upon return to work at any campus in Humble ISD the following year after their designation. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So this is just a graphic of how we developed a system, and we sent in an application that had to be approved by TEA. If it was not approved, you go back to the drawing board and you add a year to it. Every year, we look to expand and modify. That includes an application that goes to TEA for approval. Once it is approved, then it moves into data capture year. This is an entire school year of capturing effectiveness data of the teachers and their students. After that, it moves to TEA and Texas Tech University for a full year of data submission and validation before it is ever approved by TEA to actually issue those new and higher designations. So again, every year we are getting approved by TEA for the data that we put forward. After that, as I mentioned, we go to the awarding of the designations. So in Humble ISD, this is what it kind of looks like for us. We ensure that our teachers are able to get a fair and equitable system in which they can earn a designation. We have a preparation runway of 1 to 3 years that includes what we call the parking lot, year 1 of planning. This is looking at, is a teaching assignment ready? Could they be ready in the next 2 years to have their data captured? The next step is what we call the sidewalk. This is where our content area experts are given the autonomy with teacher focus groups to choose the assessment in which the students are going to be assessed on their student growth. From there, we move into practice year. This is the year that we truly act like we're capturing data for the state and we're practicing. We're trying to make sure that the assessment is valid and reliable, but also that our teacher appraisals match up with our student growth. Once we have applied after practice year, we go into data capture. And you'll see here that data capture is that first year of true eligibility. Then we go to designation and then we go to payout. So it could be upwards of 6 years when you go from planning all the way to payout. This is important to know because we do the validation through TEA every year. As we put more teachers into the system, we want to ensure they've been through this process, not to jeopardize those that are trying to earn a new or higher designation. Meaning, if TEA fails the system, any teachers we've put forth in that data file will not be put forward for designation. It fails. And we don't want to do that to our teachers because we're pushing too fast. We want to make sure that we have everything set up and our processes in place to give them the best chance possible. Look at you, good job. So this is what the TEA system approval looks like. It is very heavy on statistics. So the file goes to Texas Tech. They actually contract with Texas Tech to run the statistical analyses on the different checks. They look to see that there's correlation between a teacher's appraisal and their student growth. They're looking to see that if a principal walked in and appraised a teacher and said, this is an amazing teacher, that student growth aligns. And in the same sense, if the appraiser walks in and sees a teacher that says, you know, they're developing, they have some improvement that could be needed, that student growth matches that as well. That's okay. We need the bell curve. We need the bell curve of teachers that are developing, but we also need our amazing teachers on the other side. And that's what TEA is looking for, is that they are going to give money to districts for teachers that were valid and reliably given a designation. The state is not going to send us a whole bunch of money if we can't match those up and prove them that in our system. Okay, so to take a look at what is required by TEA. So TEA has 2 statutory requirements, and they're component 1 and 2. Teacher growth, as I mentioned, this is when it's an evaluation. This is when the appraiser goes in, they take a look at multiple times through the year, how is the teacher doing? This year, 25-26 school year with House Bill 2, TEA opened up entry access to earn a designation. They added the acknowledged level. That means that 50% of teachers in Texas should be able to earn a designation. Currently, with 24-25 data that is at Texas Tech as we speak, they could earn a recognized or exemplary or master level, and you'll see the scores there. Also, with the student growth, you'll see how the percentage of students that need to grow to meet each of those levels. So what you're looking for is that when you walk in and you see a master teacher that scores really high, every time you go into their classroom, 70% or more of their students are growing. And we can prove that through the data that we submit to TEA and Texas Tech. So these should align, but it's not a perfect alignment always. As you can imagine, there are many levers that go into walking into a classroom and actually appraising a teacher, maybe in a subject area that you have no background in. You need resources. And that's what we do in that planning phase, is we put together those resources from those subjects to make sure that an appraiser has that when they go into the classroom. They have the knowledge of where to find that evidence of that student growth that they can put in that evaluation so those can align. So this is a correlation chart. This is the first step of what TEA actually looks at. So this is the heaviest weighted on that validation score. And what you see here is you like to see the line, actually the curve going straight up. You want it to be a steep line to the right. So where the check marks are in the top right-hand corner, this is going to be a teacher with a T-test average very high. So you're going to see 3.5 to 5, and then all the way over to the right, that top right quadrant is your student growth. Those are going to be your high student growth on
So
that
do
side.
the points represent individual teachers?
Great question. Yes, sir. They can represent one or multiple teachers, because if you have an appraiser that gave the same appraisal and the teacher, another teacher got the same student growth, we could have up to 10 teachers under each dot.
Oh, really? Because I was saying, I'd like to meet the ones that, those two dots up there in the top there in that right-hand corner.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I could tell you who they are, but afterwards.
Kind of, yeah, off the charts.
I know who they are exactly. They're amazing teachers. So what you want to see is in that top right quadrant, we're going to call those balloons. We want many balloons up there because we want that line to go up. In this bottom left quadrant, we want rocks, because these teachers, while low in developing or improvement needed, their student scores are low too. So that aligns. That is making our correlation higher. So anything in the X's, those are outliers. Those are areas of improvement that we can work on. So what I want you to notice from this slide is, while yes, there are a lot of dots on this slide, but if we throw the whole district onto this slide all at once without the proper planning, it could mess up our correlation and could actually jeopardize if we pass on any given year, which is why we have the planning process before we go to this. Okay, so where are we currently? So this gives you kind of a quick rundown of from the years, past couple of years. 22-23 was our data capture year. So we didn't have any designated teachers that year other than National Board Certified Teachers. National Board Certified Teachers automatically earn a recognized designation under TEA's current system. You will see the number of campuses which our designated teachers that were NBCTs were at was 5, and the amount of funding that they generated. You'll see as we grew and we were fully approved for our 22-23 data that we locally designated teachers. We also hired teachers from other districts that carried an active designation. This goes back to the point that that designation is portable and it is effective for 5 years. So we can hire someone from, and we do hire people from other districts. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, but you said it's portable.
Yes, sir.
So once you earn that master's
Yes, sir.
designation, you don't have to earn it every year?
No, sir. It's valid for 5 years.
Okay.
However, let me put a caveat in there. In Humble ISD, we do have a maintained performance requirement in which we actually collect their information every year. And if they dip below the maintained performance requirement, they do not earn their payout with us because we want to keep them at a high level.
And the student performance piece would have to factor
Yes,
into
sir.
that, right? So, okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's not like, well, you did it, now I can write. I can
Yes, sir.
call
No,
it in. I just wanna make
not
sure
here,
I
not
understood
in
it
our
right.
district
Okay.
specifically. So as you will see, 25-26 school year, which we're in right now, we are pending approval on our 24-25 data. We anticipate to be approved, which we will find out in the spring. That'll add another 110 newer higher designations, which at this point, they're across 34 campuses. So as we continue to locally designate and add more NBCTs and new hires from other districts, that funding will increase, but so will the number of effective teachers across our district. This is a representation of multitude of ways that you can be represented as a teacher. So in 22-23, you'll see to the far right, we just had a handful of teachers, right? They were MBCTs earning money. In 23-24, they could have earned a higher designation, meaning if you came in at recognized as an MBCT and then you earned an exemplary designation off your 22-23 data, that clock restarts and you get that exemplary designation, and now you carry that for 5 years. So it can always go up and you can earn extra money. 24-25, you'll see our people here waiting on the analytics to be done by Texas Tech University. 25-26, we are collecting data currently in the classrooms. 26-27, we are in our sandbox year, which we are asking questions, poking holes, making sure that application is going to be perfect. And 27-28, we're on the sidewalk where we're having those conversations. Currently, these are our eligible campuses where you can earn a new or higher designation. As a reminder, these are not the only campuses that we have with designated teachers because of the portability. So these are going to be our Title I campuses, our highest needs. We chose these from the beginning because they are the most challenged. They do have the greatest challenges, and they are harder to staff. So we still have this in place as our strategy. Our teaching assignments, we started and focused on our core subjects and that had valid and reliable assessments in place that we believed in. You must, when you apply, have an established, and you have to prove to TEA that the assessment that you're using is established. It doesn't need to be the first year you're using it. Valid and reliable approved student growth measure, which TEA has approved. You also have to have evidence that that appraiser and that appraisal is going to match up with that student growth. The teacher type per statute, you must be an 087 PEIMS coded teacher, which means that you are a classroom teacher. This does not include our educational aides or our paras per state. Oh, go back real quick for me. In Humble ISD, you must be the teacher of record. The reason is because we are able to track your teacher-student linkage through PEIMS and prove to the state when they send us reports that this teacher was actually with this student and grew this student the entire course. And we can show that because we see them at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of year with the teacher. And the state says, yes, that is fabulous. You prove to us, and we see that that teacher was with that student for that growth.
Before you
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead, if you can just go back. So for the self-contained for K-5 and 6-8, do you know what measures they're using for that? Is
So
it
it's
STAR or
a
the
variety
adaptive
depending
STAR?
on the grade level. So
Okay.
if you're in pre-K, you're going to do Circle. If you're in K through 1, you have M class. 2 through 3 is NWA MAP. 4 and 5 is STAR.
Okay, for the self-contained.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so see where I was going with it. So then why don't we have 9 through 12 self-contained teachers in special ed?
So that is something that we're working on to determine the assessment. If the student takes STAR Alt 2, then they would count for the teacher right
Right,
now.
right.
And that is in our system. That was one of our expansions that we made in the
Yeah.
previous years.
But like TEA wouldn't accept their individual plans, their IEPs?
They could. It is, it's up to the specific content area experts of the district to determine what is best in that planning phase when they do focus groups with teachers and they reach out to other districts to determine what that assessment is. And then as we move through the planning phase, they prepare that narrative for that application.
Okay, it just seems like, you said you don't want to move fast, but I tell you, you guys are kind of moving at a glacial pace, in my opinion. I mean, it's just.
I will say it is
6 years
conservative.
Is just ridiculous to wait this long. I mean, some of these people will be retired before they could even ever have a chance to do this. I'm just a little frustrated with, we've been talking about this, and especially, the whole idea was to attract and retain people. And that's why it was focused by the state, not because you can be a master teacher, but if you're at, say, these elementaries, Willow Creek versus Pine Forest, you're getting different money.
Oh, yes, sir.
And you're getting a lot
Absolutely.
more at the latter. But that was the reason for it, okay? Because they wanted to try to get quality teachers on campuses where there was more need.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it makes perfect sense to me to do that. But I just, and special ed is another area that we really struggle to get quality people, quality teachers. And that's why going back 6 months, I was banging this hammer during the budget workshops, but we need to make this an option. And I don't see it happening. So I mean,
let's go on to a few more
there's sidewalks
slides.
and boardwalks and everything else. It's just sandboxes. And I'm sorry, that just sounds like HR stuff to me. And I just don't think we're moving fast enough. So sorry, I don't mean to be harsh, but it's important to our staff, our teachers.
Yes, sir. I completely understand. Let's go ahead and move forward of where we're going and how we're going to expand. All right, so just a quick reference into statewide data. This is put out by TEA from the TIA team on the number of districts that we have that are participating, but also a highlight to let you know that less than 1% of the districts across the state actually have all teachers in TIA right now. This is due to the process in which districts take to make sure that a teaching assignment is ready and eligible before they put it into the system to ensure that validity of the data so the system can be approved. Our expansion strategy includes to continue to work on the title campuses until we have the majority of the teaching assignments actually eligible, and then we will be able to turn on the other campuses that are non-title. Currently, for our sandbox year, which is this year, for our practice year, we have been using assessments in a variety of assignments that we will be putting forth for application this upcoming April to ensure that we receive full readiness. Sandbox year includes PE, fine arts, science, social studies, English as secondary language, reading 1, 2, and 3. We're going to add the early childhood pre-K center and teacher type, SPED resource, interventionist, including dyslexia, and SPED in-class support. And we're able to do that because we've had planning years to appropriately roster the students to the teachers that are not typically a teacher of record that show up in PEIMS on a regular manner. In addition, we have conversations and we have planning sessions around additional SPED, including K through 3, our behavior teachers, our deaf ed teachers, CTE principles courses, additional core classes that are in pathways that are non-STAR tested, foreign languages, and other assignments, which always include the content area experts working with teachers as well as their groups to ensure that these systems are ready and in place. Currently eligible, as you mentioned, the SPED and Gen Ed self-contained teachers in pre-K through 5 with their variety of assessments, as well as SPED self-contained teachers with STAR or STAR Alt 2, and our future expansion into grades K through 3 that do not already have an assessment in place, in which the SPED team is working on identifying that assessment. For the community and the public, we do have a webpage that has all of the resources available to our teachers. I meet with them regularly. I have open office hours, which I offer to the teachers. I do webinars. They've become quite comfortable just calling me or emailing me when they need something. That is the approach, is that they need to feel comfortable coming to me because I am, the liaison for them to help get their questions answered. So before I end, I wanted to say thank you for volunteering on the board. My grandfather was on this board from 1970 to 1980, and I know this is Board Appreciation Month. So thank you so much for all you do. And thank you for your interest in TIA. Yeah. Are there any other questions that I
Any
can
comments
answer?
or questions, please? Mrs. Parker.
Who was your grandfather?
Gerald Redmond.
Dr. Brown?
Well, I just want to thank Tiffany for all of her work, and Rick. I mean, it is a process without a doubt. And I think, we would all like to get everybody TIA qualified as quickly as possible. And I think that's the intent, and we will get there. And I think when you listen to the commissioner speak, I mean, he sees this as the future of public education as far as being able to enhance the salaries that teachers make, as opposed to the 1% to 2% raises that the state provides and we provide and those kinds of things. And so I think that we've got the train moving, and we just want to make sure that it stays on the track. So thank you guys so much for your work.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I have
Sure.
just a comment. I know this is like a huge undertaking, right? One of the things I think it's DISD. I'll get more information and send it to you guys, but I know DISD worked on fast tracking, and I think they were the model for fast tracking TIA or getting it out the door a little bit faster than what we're talking about here. Have we looked at other districts, and what districts are we looking at to see what they're doing?
Yeah. So I am on the steering committee for the TIA leads across the state.
Okay.
And we talk to Aldine very regularly, and they fast tracked. So they went all in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I will say that their feedback to new districts is don't fast track, is to start slow, start small, do it right, and gradually add as you have those assessments available. To be completely honest, I am speaking at a TEA webinar next week on our strategy because TEA asked me to go speak because they like that we take the time to plan and get it right to ensure that we're not putting those teachers at jeopardy that are looking to earn a new or higher designation because of the data validation that happens every year. So yes, constant communication with other districts on how they do it. We're kind of one person shops when it comes to a TIA lead when we're trying to figure out which assessment works for you. What assessment are you using? You have a crosswalk for a T-test appraisal. How did you do that? So we definitely lean on each other and are always looking to make it most efficient and effective as possible.
Because I think TEA is still using the fast track models as their examples when they roll this out. And so one of the things that it'd be great to get feedback on are how are those districts doing, right? That was about 4 or 5 years ago that they started those
Yeah,
models.
so every year they go through the same data validation that we do. Now, whether they are approved or not, some do get approved again year over year and some do not. There are districts that fail approval and then they would need to go back to their teachers and let them know that their designation that they were hoping to get, that new or higher designation, isn't happening.
So has TEA basically said, slow down the bus and
No.
do this right? Okay, no, they haven't. Okay.
They do not give specific guidance to districts. It is a local decision on how fast you want to go.
Okay. So is there a balance that we could go a little bit faster? I mean, is there, I know that the fast track model has failed in some areas, but I think it has succeeded in some areas. Are we on this side of that? So if this was fast track, DISD, which brought themselves out of a hole, I'm pretty sure that's their test case that they use when they launched this. I could be wrong. You can correct me. Am I correct on that? Yeah. And so if DISD is right here, where is Humble ISD? If you had to draw that picture for me, like it's from a timing standpoint, because I think they're doing it year on year, but.
Yeah. So we are not all in right now. We have our TIA campuses at the elementary level. I would say 64% of the teachers are eligible, and that's before we added math this year. And now we're going to layer more on. So elementary will get there a lot faster as we layer on the middle school teaching assignments. As you can think about it, the bigger the schools get, the more teaching assignments. So I was a CTE teacher in high school. There's every kind of CTE course that you now need to find an assessment that works. So we'll layer them on as we find that they are valid and reliable to put that data forward.
I mean, I would encourage us to I'm just looking at the elementary list and Mr. Erb, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm looking at the elementary school list. You've got 12 elementary schools. Is there a way to maybe not do secondary might kill me because I'm saying this, secondary campuses, but really look at elementary and get some of our holes fixed through TIA, right? Our Title I campuses that are F-rated schools. And focus just on those and go.
They're on there.
That they're on the list, but is the scope of moving faster because we've added on secondary, right? Can we just focus on elementary and go from I know we're not at a snail's pace, but I'm trying to see how we accelerate. No?
They're already approved. I mean, they're already
They're already approved.
Getting.
So that's not what's slowing you down. So I guess the question let me rephrase the question. What is keeping us? Let me ask the question a little differently. If I'm on this side as a fast track and I'm saying Humble ISD is over here, what's keeping us from not moving a little bit closer to that? So what are some of the what are some of the assumptions, dependencies that are keeping us from going a little bit closer to that fast track model?
Every year, we want to validate. We want the state to come back and say, yes, we want to give you more money for new and higher designations every year.
So it's
The
a
more-
risk.
There is a risk. So the more dots you throw up on that correlation scatter plot, if the appraisal does not match the student growth, or maybe the student growth is too subjective, which we've had to modify in the past, it could change your correlation score for the whole system by throwing one teaching assignment in that's not exactly ready. So we are conservative in the sense that, yes, we want to ensure it's ready. Can some of them be ready faster than others? Absolutely. We can add those on, and you saw on the sandbox list, there's a long list there of what we're applying for this April. Will the others come in slowly? Yes, as we get the assessment determined, as well as the appraiser side shored up. We're going to move as quickly as we feel that the data is valid and reliable, not to risk the whole system.
And I think you will be able to move a little bit faster as you move to the new testing system of BOY, MOY, YOY, whatever they are going to call it, beginning, middle, and year. I think you'll be able to move a little bit faster. I just want to encourage us to be thinking of that a little bit more as you go into that starting in 2 years from now. What does the 6-year timeline look like? Is it 4 years or is it 3? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I don't want us to
absolutely.
be locked into a 6-year timeline if we can be at a 4 or 3.
Oh, yes. And that's why it says 1 to 3+ years for the
Yeah.
planning, because some of them only need 1 year for planning and they're ready for application. And then we go bam into data capture.
Because you're going to get more data as we get to next year and the year after. I just would like for us to see if we can accelerate this. This is, from what they say, maybe I drank the Kool-Aid. Okay, so say I drank the Kool-Aid on TIA, but from what they're saying, it does take failing schools and it changes the mindset, right? And you've got the right teachers and the right places, and you guys can poke holes at me, anybody on this, but the data has shown that if we accelerate this pace, we'll see some of those changes on our F-rated schools, possibly.
Possibly, yes. We'd like to keep them at those schools. Yes, ma'am.
But we've got to,
With it still being portable. So they have the choice to go to another school, but we'd like to keep them at those schools.
The other thing I'll mention
That's a great plan.
is the fact that we did start looking at the Dallas model.
Yes.
Michelle,
Yeah.
in the early stages of this. And yes, it wasn't called TIA, it was
No.
called something else
Yeah.
back in the day. And what we learned was that they did move too fast.
Okay.
There were issues with regards to their communication, their plan, their execution. And their first year, from what I remember, is that they had probably about 400 to 600 grievances that came through the process because it wasn't explained well, or it didn't make sense in some aspects. So it was more subjective in some cases versus objective. So as we've approached TIA, we've learned from all these other districts as well. And so like Tiffany was mentioning, TEA now comes to us as one of the premier districts for other districts to learn. So there's a fine balance with regards to what she was mentioning, in that what we introduce, the heaviest weight is that correlation. And if we bomb in that correlation, then the entire system will fail.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that.
And then, so it's a delicate balance. Yes.
Yeah. The Dallas
that's
model,
what I'm
I mean,
saying.
I know that they've reiterated it a couple times because it did
Okay.
fail. So, but I mean, it's somewhere in between, right? Is where we've got to be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mr. Vice President?
Mrs.
if I may, So you showed the one slide said only 1% of districts across state have everybody on it. Can you tell me who maybe makes up, who some of those districts are? Just curious. Are they tiny districts? Are they middle of
All
the
over,
road
yeah.
districts?
Since the focus originally was on the rural and hard to staff
Right.
campuses, there are quite a few rural districts, but there are some larger ones. Aldine's 98%, just to give you a comparison.
But you said that they were saying that's not a good thing to do.
Their suggestion to districts starting out is to start smaller
Okay.
and then work your way from there. Yes,
But
sir.
we're not starting out.
No, sir.
So I guess, and to Ms. Shaw's point and mine about the slowness, have we looked at districts who are comparable, who have a much higher percentage of people of staff that are on this and because I imagine their data collection has got to be the same as far as what they're using, because most of it's going to be driven by STAR. And, quite a bit, I'd say the most, and then their evaluation. So that's all I ask you. If you would, really maybe look a little deeper, and not just accept that, we got this timeline, as Ms. Shaw just said, that becomes it forever. I really think the goal should be to really shrink this down. Maybe we don't need a parking lot and we don't need all those things, I'm not saying we should throw caution to the wind, but I think we can be a little more aggressive because, these staff members who can benefit from this, well, they're not, what I'm going to say are highly comped, unfortunately. And that's a big problem with education in terms of attracting people and retaining them. So this is a tool to do that. So I just charge you with that we got to get a little quicker. I'm not satisfied that we should just accept that this is how we're doing it. So anyway.
And I'll say, Mr. Scarfo, we don't accept that. We are continuing to try to improve this process and this system. The biggest challenge with regards to the TIA is that component too, and having the right assessment tool that not only that we've tested on our end, but at the end of the day, that TEA accepts and they approve that. So they're going to be the biggest players in this with regards to that assessment platform and that tool. And not every job classification, teaching classification is as easy with regards to some of the other systems or these other assessment systems versus some of the other ones. So that's where part of this challenge and some of this slowdown does occur with regards to identifying what assessment tool will measure that student growth.
But I would submit, I'm sorry, one thing. I would just submit that more do than don't as far as those jobs that have assessment tools that TEA blesses and uses all the time. So.
Yeah. What's when you say accept our assessment tool, we're all working off the same assessment tool, right? So what are they not accepting, I guess? Oh, now we are. Okay. So this is our first year to work off. So as a district, the cultural change is what's held us back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because now we're all on the same page.
Yes,
and we've got
ma'am.
the tool. So nothing should be holding us back at this point. And we're moving right into MOI,
Correct.
EOI. Okay.
Correct.
Because I don't want us coming back next year and saying that we're still evaluating the tool. We've got the tool, we're going, right? The train has left the station. Okay. I want to make sure, I'm not trying, and I'm not, I really want us to be, it's the train has left the station, but we've got the tools, we're tracking, we're measuring across secondary and core content STAR. Okay, correct. This is where you guys have to correct me a little bit on that. So it's core content STAR. That's 1-to-1, which is okay. And we will have 1 year of that data by next year to be able to put into the system, which we don't have today. We don't have that 1 full year. Okay.
We've been doing this for a couple number of years already, right?
Can y'all come to the podium for me? I'm sorry. We need to capture this on the audio.
What I'm hearing is that we don't have that core content data.
But previously we were not utilizing STAR as the measure. That was not an expectation. And so now, as planning from last year going into this year, we're able to utilize STAR. And for example, MAP in K-3, and then STAR 4 and 5, which is supported by TEA research base. And so we're able to move forward with that.
Any other questions or comments by the board? I'd just say thank you very much to both of you very much for that presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh,
Okay.
I have just one quick question. So where do new teachers align in this TIA structure? I didn't, like brand new teachers that come out, where are they? How do they will be also, I mean, they're not excluded from this, right?
Oh, no, ma'am. So if they're at a TI eligible campus and a TI eligible teaching assignment as an 087 Peems Code teacher with at least 5 students as teacher of record, then they are eligible.
Okay, thank you both very, very much. Okay, moving on to item 8 Delta, Financial Services Report. Any questions from board members regarding this item? Okay, moving on. Consideration of topics for future board business. Moving to our closing items, are there any topics for future board business? The time is 9:06. This meeting is adjourned.